collapse any moment now because they're socialist. Okay, China's going to collapse any moment now. They're socialist. They're socialist. Okay, we've decided that China is actually cheating. They're too good. Their socialism is too good for our capitalist system. It's cheating. It's cheating. It's cheating. It's cheating. They're cheating. Okay, how about we cheat? And here, remember when I told you like a lot of quote unquote intelligent PhD having political economy understanding people will consistently talk about China cheating. What they mean when they say China is cheating is that China has a command economy and it is impossible to compete against a command economy. God forbid we have that same thing here in the United States of America. Fuck no, we can't do that because that would harm the interests of capital. This goes back to the argument that I'm making, which is that supranational capital is the most powerful element here. That is the enemy here. It is not China. Because if we wanted to truly have a free market, okay, it was a real free market, and China was cleaning out, absolutely destroying us by outcompeting us in the free market, we would look to what they're doing and then implement it here, which would require us to have central planning and be invested in long-term stability, have long-term goals of both internal development and external development. Even the One Belt, One Road initiative in and of itself is a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. But of course, we don't want we don't want to compete against China. We want to continue the system where the dollar is the reserve currency of the entire globe, where all global trade is done on the dollar. So we still have that level of control, while also simultaneously we want to be able to cut Chinese manufacturing and just rip it away from them, and Chinese development and rip it away from them because they outcompeted us all at the behest of capital. You cannot talk like this if you were in China right now against the government. You know that, bro? Yes, I know, dude. I know that. I know. What, bro? They literally shoot people in the back of their head execution style if they speak against their government. Y'all want that? The fuck are you talking about? Hey, man, I fantasized about something happening in China that's not happening. Do you want that here? That's so fucking stupid. First of all, I wouldn't be speaking like this if I was in China. I would be a fucking regime-pilled defender of the Communist Party of China in the glorious People's Republic of China. Okay? So, I wouldn't be concerned with the free speech limitations there. That's number one. Number two, as long as I'm here, I do criticize the Chinese government's practices on that front regardless. Except the issue here is, as American hegemony ends on the global stage, we are finding out right now in this very moment that free speech wasn't so fucking free anyway here in the United States of America either. You got ICE literally saying, if you have dangerous ideas crossing into American borders, we will shut it down. Yeah. If you talk about Israel being bad in China, they actually black bag you in the middle of the street and then ship you into a slave colony in El Salvador. Oh, wait, we are doing that. We're doing that right now. Fuck. My bad. That's not China. That's America. But hey, keep coping.
Back to 2001.
Anyway, let's talk about this. Okay? Let's talk about this. You will understand what I've been saying over and over again. When a fucking PhD economist says China is cheating and not playing by the rules of global trade, rules that we have designed, rules that we have designed ourselves. The Western world has designed, America especially. What they mean is China has a command economy and it's impossible to compete against a command economy because they can just fucking heavily subsidize the shit out of their manufacturing in an effort to outcompete capitalist countries.
After it was admitted to the World Trade Organization, China cheated in multiple ways. China continues to subsidize its industries in all kinds of ways. It engages in unfair competition. It does things that look to me, at least, like dumping. And it's done this for a quarter of a century nearly. What do you do to stop that, to check that kind of behavior of gaming a free trade system if it's not tariffs? Or is there nothing you can do? You just have to live with it?
Can I ask a question? Could every student here who's paying $10,000 or more in tuition raise their hands?
No, we don't have tuition.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. That was the point that I was making. So you have no tuition. Why do you have no tuition? You have no tuition because somehow you have succeeded in mobilizing funds that have enabled you to admit students without paying.
Look at this socialist, by the way. Okay? Look at this fucking socialist, chat. The radical Maoist third worldist Larry H. Summers, former United States Secretary of the Treasury, Larry H. Summers. I just need you to understand. That's fucking Larry Summers saying what he's about to say.
So students get the benefit of an...
We used to subsidize our industries. We do. There are rules for how much you can subsidize your industries technically in global trade. The problem is, or rather, what we do when we subsidize our industries is because they're capitalist enterprise that are not completely maintained and controlled by a command economy. When we subsidize our fucking industries, it surely lowers prices a little bit, but a big chunk of those subsidies still, in one way, shape, or form, end up in the hands of capitalists. That's the problem. It doesn't actually go directly into lowering prices, which is precisely the reason why America turns around and goes, wait a minute, you're not supposed to subsidize to actually cheapen the fucking the output. You can't subsidize shit to make it so that it's incredibly affordable. What are you doing? We subsidize everything, chat. What are you talking about?
Education without paying. Do you think that if the University of Texas or Harvard or Rice called this an unfair practice because it put them at a competitive disadvantage, that would be a reasonable thing? Or do you think that it's a good thing that you're able to provide free college educations, and it would be even better if more people could provide free college educations? I kind of have the latter view. So if China wants to sell us things at really low prices, and the transaction is we get solar collectors that help make there be less global climate change, or we get batteries that we can put in electric cars, and we send them pieces of paper that we print.
I mean, he's 100% correct about this scheme, by the way. This is the design. This is the design of American-backed global trade. He's just being radically honest about it. That's it. He's not like pro-China by any means. He is not in any way, shape, or form saying that it's a good thing that China is doing this or whatever. He is simply explaining what the system currently looks like, and to constantly fucking cry foul about the subsidies when Chinese affordable manufacturing is the way that we have designed this game. The only problem here is that China has developed into becoming a competitive superpower. That's the issue. If China was still poor, if China was this neoliberal shithole, okay, then we wouldn't have any issues. We'd be like, oh, great. What do you mean? China is marginally improving the living conditions of their working class 0.000001% year over year. That's fantastic. But that's not what happened. Through command economy, through 15-year plans, through rapid urbanization, through rapid development, China was able to become a competitive superpower. That is the issue. They didn't play ball. How dare you? How dare you have a fucking vision? How dare you actually truly work to uplift your citizens? That's unacceptable. That's literally this entire conversation. That's it. The global south is not supposed to develop. The global south is supposed to never become a competitive power in the global stage. That you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that as a developing nation. If China was still like India in terms of in terms of its governance, then we would never in a million fucking years complain about China. We'd be like, it's great. It's great. It's awesome. We'd be talking about how bountiful free trade has been for China. As we do to this day about India.
Think that's a good deal for us or a bad deal for us? I kind of think it's a good deal for us. So the idea, the way you frame the question, which is that this is cheating and is there a way to deal with the problem of cheating, I think is largely wrong. It's just like, was it unfair to dentists when fluoride water got invented? It was terrible for the dental business. Terrible. Far fewer cases.
Isn't that the fundamental benefit of being a totalitarian system? You can influence the country for good or bad unchecked. Yet, look at all of the other totalitarian systems that have something very different in comparison to China. Nations have totalitarian systems in one way, shape, or form. And yet, we don't have these same conclusion here, okay? Which is what I'm stressing. The only difference between China The only difference in and of itself with China in comparison to other places is that China has a command economy and a vision for development that they've actually followed through on. That's it. Seen much success in this process. Oh. It always goes back to the same dynamic. Oh. It always goes back to the same dynamic. In China, the government controls the corporations. In America, the corporations control the governments. One is on a downtrend. The other one is on a massive upswing. Which do you prefer?
Cavities, far less for dentists to do. Was it terrible when electric light got invented? Terrible for the candle makers. So there's this thing that lets people buy things for lower cost. Should you say that's terrible? I think the whole way of framing the question is wrong. Now, I'm making it simpler than it is. There is an issue. It's called, which economists call predatory pricing, which is the idea.
Yeah, when Amazon does it, there's nothing that we can do, and it's actually good when it's not good. And he's right. It is predatory pricing, for the record. But under normal market, free market conditions, you're supposed to, as a fucking government, okay, you're the American government. What do you mean China is doing predatory pricing to you? Are you insane? Subsidize our fucking industries then, and also ensure that our industries also have a race to the bottom in terms of prices, not in terms of wages, because you can also do that as well. You just have to drop the profit incentive out of the equation. Nationalize our key manufacturing industries, nationalize our extraction industries, and also in the process, control your economy. Actually control it. Do not let your economy be captured by the whims of the market for profit seekers that will always care about profit above all else. But we won't do that. We'll just keep coping and saying, look, China is so poor. The average working condition in China is significantly worse than America. Okay, adjust that to 20 years ago for the average Chinese worker versus now, and then look at American average worker living conditions and living standards 20 years ago versus now, 30 years ago versus now, 40 years ago versus now. Where the fuck was China 50 years ago versus where they're at now? Look at America and the average worker in the United States of America 50 fucking years ago. And I don't mean like the bounties of affordable treats. I mean like literally being able to purchase shit, the purchasing power that you have, upward social mobility 50 years ago versus now. China doesn't nationalize their firms and industries. They create a series of firms and make them knife fight to survive. Yeah, except it doesn't matter because ultimately the government still controls all of it. So when push comes to shove and there's something that they've done that is annoying to them, or they've destabilized the markets and have moved away from the vision of the government, they fucking knife the company. Evergrande is a great example of this. Look at what happened with Evergrande. They are de facto nationalized. That's why I say China uses capitalism as a sleeve, okay? Also, isn't it funny? Is it Evergrande, isn't it? I keep fucking up the name of the goddamn real estate company. Yeah, no, it's Evergrande. I said it right. It's not Evergreen. Yeah, they use capitalism as a glove, okay? They wear capitalism. They basically present themselves as a nation with markets, a nation that cares about capitalist competition. And in certain instances, they use market conditions as well for competition. It's just funny to consider that everything that you say in America, like normal concepts that you think about here in the United States of America that you've normalized in your mind, you have a very scary word for it over there, okay? We have slavery in our prison systems. They have gulags. We have normal free market competition. They have knife fights. Think about that. It's always, even if they're doing the same exact shit that we're doing or doing things at a much lower degree, we greatly elevate and have propaganda. We have PR. I don't ask you to, immediately adopt the framework that I'm presenting to you. Immediately adopt the framework that I'm presenting to you. I want you to simply reconsider. I want you to reconsider. I want you to reconsider how you look at these things, okay? Yeah. We have industry leaders in the form of billionaires. They have oligarchs that you have adopted.
That somebody will sell things that are really low price, then they'll drive all their competitors out of business. That somebody will sell things that are really low price, then they'll drive all their competitors out of business, and then they'll jack the price way up. And so if you thought that all of this was sort of setting us up for the kill in terms of a policy, it's pretty hard to make that case with respect to the vast number of things we're importing. Of them, if the price did get jacked up, with respect to the vast number of things we're importing. Of them, if the price did get jacked up, our producers could re-enter. The market. In the entirety of economics, there have been almost no examples documented of where predatory pricing actually happened. There's an argument you can make that is about dependence, perhaps with respect to really sensitive technologies. We don't want to depend on China because then they might cut us off and their government might take control, and that might be bad for our national security. And there are a lot of things to do about that. We should stockpile more things than we do. There are probably some areas like semiconductors where we should be investing in developing domestic capacity. But that's not an argument that because they're making something available cheap, it's cheating and you should have a policy. So I'd reject the entire way in which you framed the question.
Actually,
What year is this video from? Probably recent. Thanks to the dollar reserve status, to quote Summers' rhetorical question, if China wants to sell us things at really low price and the transaction is we get solar collectors and we get batteries that we can put in electric cars and we send them pieces of paper that we print, do you think that's a good deal for us or a bad deal for us? Characterizing this as cheating, like Summer rightly says, should be rejected entirely. At the end of the day, who's more cheated? The party doing the hard work of producing goods at very low prices? Who is this guy? Just some random squishy socialist, dude. The videos from yesterday. Just a famous Maoist by the name of Larry H. Summers. Did you hear Trump isn't removing the Israel tariff? Trump is off the leash. My goat. He's doing BDS to Israel. That's right. He said he's going to dismantle the Zionist entity. My king. Comrade Summers, dude. Anyway, this framing of China as the good guy here makes no sense at all. What are you even talking about? China using capitalism as a sleeve? China is communist, period. Now that I think, what would help make a better analogy is if I pretend to be capitalism and you pretend to be China and you could use me as a sleeve. I mean, what? Who said that? Not me? Okay, Jesus Christ, Chad. You know, jerk off.